Well, hi, hello, welcome back 2025. Here we are. And today we are kicking off the new year with Turbo Threat Hunting, a game changer for rapid cyber recovery. Today's exciting webinar is sponsored by Rubrik and produced by Actual Tech Media, a future B2B company. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I am very pumped. If you couldn't tell, if you couldn't hear it in my voice, I am so happy to be back here to be your moderator for this conversation because first and foremost, this is my first webinar back with all of you in 2025. I missed all of you. I'm so excited seeing all our wonderful returning faces and names. Okay, I can't see your faces. I see your lovely names coming in and so happy to see all the shout outs. It sounds like everyone had a great holiday season. Keep those highs and hellos, keep those shout outs coming as always as we go through. Really, really excited to be back with all of you. But I am also really excited to get into this webinar today because we have a fascinating conversation planned for you. We are talking about turbo threat hunting. How cool is that? I like every piece of that topic. I like every piece of our title today. I cannot wait to explore this innovative, potentially revolutionary technology. This can scan 100,000 backups in under 60 seconds. So that's right. Today, with the help of our expert speaker, we're just going to casually blow the roof off our understanding of what is possible in cyber resilience, right? No big deal. Just very, very exciting information. I cannot wait to get our expert speaker on out here with me in just a moment. But as always, I do want to go through a few housekeeping points because it's been a few weeks. So even if you know these all by heart, I know it's been a minute. Let's do a little refresher of how we hang out in our webinar console, how you get the most out of your time here with us today. So like I said, we were talking about all the wonderful highs and hellos and all the happy New Year's. It sounds like we had some great relaxing breaks out there. Those highs and hellos are all happening in our questions tab. So what you're going to do if you're not already there is find that questions tab. If you didn't know this, you can kind of move that window out, make it a little bigger on your screen. That's very helpful. Go through that questions tab and tell us how you're doing. Tell us where you were. What did you spend your break doing? How's your 2025 starting out? We want to hear from you. As we go through our session today, we also want to get some questions from you. Now, our speaker is going to be doing the best that he can to get back to you, but because he's also doing a live demo today, and we're going to get into that very shortly, he may not be able to answer as many questions over live chat. So what we're going to do is collect all of those questions and make sure that they get sent to Rubrik. So if you're not getting an answer over live chat today, you will get a response back from Rubrik. So make sure that you get those questions in as we go through our interesting session today. I know you're going to have a lot of questions, so make sure you're getting those in there. All right, so we've done our little questions tab intro. We're going to take one quick hop over to the resource tab, the handouts tab. Make sure that you are downloading, holding on to, opening, collecting all of those resources because those are going to be great takeaways. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling a little bit of dust on the cogs of my brain. I'm not quite back into the flow of things yet. So if your cogs are feeling a little dusty, then downloading and opening those resources is a great way to follow up on everything you're hearing in the webinar. Make sure that you can dig into those a little bit after we wrap. All right, so the last thing we're going to cover in our housekeeping is, of course, prize giveaways. We have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing that we're going to give away at the end of our webinar. Now, of course, $250 is nice to have as we come out, right? Isn't January one of the saddest months? Isn't that a thing? It's January and February, like the darkest months of the year. So, you want a little bright sunshine in your life. We've got great information and a $250 prize giveaway. That's our contribution to combating the low period in January and February here. We're going to give that prize away at the end of our webinar. You do need to be here live and present at the webinar in order to win, and you do need to meet all of the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those T's and C's are, we have them linked for you in the handouts tab, so you can click in, scroll down, and you will find all of them waiting for you there. I see those highs and hellos still coming in. Ooh, we even got a bonjour from Winnipeg. I love it. Very happy to be hearing from all of you. Please keep those coming in. This is making me absolutely beam to see all of your wonderful names and hear from all of you today. I'm so happy to be back here with you. Speaking of which, I think it's about time that we jump into our session because we've got a lot of great content coming our way. And I am very happy to introduce you all to our expert presenter here with us today, and that is Adam Turner, Senior Product Manager at Rubrik. Adam, thank you so much for being here to kick off what is my first webinar of 2025. I don't know if it's yours, and maybe all of you out there have been listening to lots, but kicking things off today in style with you, Adam. Very excited to jump in. I'm going to hand things right on over to you. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Turner, I'm the product manager for data threat analytics at Rubrik. And today we're going to be reviewing threat hunting, what it is, why it's important, what we're trying to accomplish here, and then why is turbo threat hunting going to change the game for our customers when it comes to their cyber resilience planning and their cyber recovery efforts. We'll take a quick demo to look at what we have in store with you, what we have in store for you with turbo threat hunting, and then some resources as far as links, that sort of stuff for any follow-up materials. All right, let's dive in. All right, our main objective here is to help our customers out with preparing and executing a cyber recovery plan. So our C-levels and all of our board members are asking, can we recover from a cyber attack? And most organizations are trying to put the right technologies and personnel in place to immediately respond to a cyber attack. However, time is of the essence. We have to be able to not just recover our data, we have to be able to validate our data in a short amount of time. And as we're going to see in our presentation today, unfortunately, ransomware response often takes weeks and months. The reason for this is that the attackers have a variety of different ways of getting into our environment. There's a variety of different players, and they're growing every single year. There are more and more threat adversaries out there. So they have more opportunities to get into our environment. Their sophistication is growing. And as we can see, there's a variety of thicker walls that we can adopt, but the nature and the rate of attacks does not seem to be slowing down. So what our organizations or what the market really needs is not just a platform that allows for recovery, but a cyber resilience platform that allows for garden variety recovery, disaster recovery, but also at scale security investigations so we can perform at scale cyber remediation. So let's go ahead and dive in real quickly into what the timeline looks like so we can get a better understanding of some of these details. So from the left to the right, this is the timeline of a successful ransomware attack. This means that this is the timeline of at-scale encryption, unfortunately, eventually occurring. It all does, of course, start with an attacker gaining access to the environment, as depicted over here on the far left. And this is during the business as usual time series of the event. When the ransomware attacker gains access to the environment, they do not immediately pull an encryption lever. They have to perform the initial compromise. They have to perform enumerations to understand what is the makeup, what is the nature of this business. They have to laterally move around the environment, and then they pull the encryption lever. The amount of time that it may take to perform all these actions, it's variable. If you look at some of the ransomware reports that come out, usually quarterly these days, the North American dwell time, the amount of time basically depicted in the teal aspect here, is anywhere from 5 to 7 days. If you go back a little bit further in time, you look at historically at these reports, they can go up to 30 to 45 days. So the dwell time aspect is a very large variable with respects to how is the attacker conducting their attack. On the right-hand side is where we get into the crime scenes of the ransomware attacks, which are oftentimes, very similar in the sense that they encrypt the same type of files, they encrypt the same types of systems, they encrypt the data assets that make our environment go. The number one aspect as far as ransomware response, the kind of the crown jewel, the holy grail, if you will, is understanding the initial point of infection. There's a lot of different investigations that usually go into this aspect of ransomware response, looking at a lot of different telemetry sources, trying to determine when did the environment first start to show anomalies, signs of malware, to start to pinpoint which systems were the first visited by the attacker, where did this attack first stem from. So again, we can use a lot of different information sources to do this. Malware itself, of course, is a very, very likely indicator that an attacker has visited an asset. And this is where threat hunting starts to come into play. So if we wanted to take this project on board, if we wanted to start to understand all the different assets that we have and all the different points in time they have, washing through them, trying to determine has this system been visited by an attacker, then we want to understand some quick back of the napkin math for what that might look like. So just kind of generic, kind of easy math for everybody to walk through here real quick. We're going to talk about maybe 1,000 servers being backed up, and then your general kind of rule of thumb for data protection and retention is usually about 30 days. And so if we start talking about having to cover the entire retention, basically that dwell time investigation or the data validation project across our entire estate, we're looking at 30,000 images to scan. This can also be looked at as 30,000 restore points to conduct and 30,000 restore points to begin the data validation project on. The problem with this here is that we have to rely on recovery before we can ever start our data validation processes, whatever they may be. If we have to rely on a recovery for each and every single point in time here, we're looking at 30,000 times best case scenario, a few minutes, worst case scenario, a few hours. You start to do the multiplication here, you start to extrapolate it all, and this is what can take the data validation project, the search for malware across our historical points in time. It can extend into days and weeks. So to solve for this problem, Rubrik introduced the concept of threat hunting and threat monitoring directly on backup data, what we refer to as data threat analytics. Threat hunting allows the operator, the user, to bring indicators of compromise to the Rubrik Security Cloud platform, automatically scan the entire platform, all files that have been backed up, the most recent files, as well as all files that we have in retention, to identify which points in time of which systems contain the files that caused the ransomware outbreak. We also have threat monitoring, which is an automated tool that uses the same backend engine for identifying malicious files as we compare them to indicators of compromise. In this case, threat monitoring is powered by Intel feeds. Out of the box, there is a Intel feed provided and curated by Mandiant, and you can also, in a recent future, you can bring your own feeds to the table to plug in to threat monitoring. This allows us to take known indicators of compromise, whether they're brand new or maybe recently established, and scan our entire backup environment every single day in a vault where the attackers don't have access and they can't disable the tools. Going back to threat hunting, this is usually more in play for malware that doesn't have known signatures. Worst case scenario, maybe dealing with a zero-day variety. Well, once the zero-day variety has reared its head and is inside the environment and it has caused the encryption, at this point, IOCs can be discovered, but it's the processing of these IOCs that can take a significant amount of time if we always have to rely on recovery. Fortunately, with threat hunting, when we originally released this tool, we were able to reduce the order of magnitude from weeks and days down to hours and minutes. What we want to accomplish with turbo threat hunting is taking that order of magnitude down from hours and minutes and around to directly to that second type of level or the seconds order of magnitude. And with turbo threat hunting, we're now reducing the order of magnitude down to mere seconds. For turbo threat hunting, we're unlocking the power of scanning up to 75,000 backups in under 1 minute. And the way that we accomplish this is we pre-record all of the different hash formats for all of the binary files we see on every single backup. So put another way, if I see a Windows binary file or a Linux binary file, I pre-record the hash of that file in a global catalog, allowing us to immediately search that global catalog as soon as the backup has completed, giving us the ability to unlock data at scale. And the reason we want to do this is we want to go ahead and pre-record all of the usual suspect file types. Malware, 99.9% of the time, will rear itself as a binary file type. So by pre-recording the indicators of all binary file types, this allows us to, in a ransomware attack, immediately zero in on the types of files most likely to have caused our impact. And then we can use our original threat hunting version to scan usual suspects, unusual suspects, file types, pretty much anything that Rubrik has backed up to our immutable file system. Okay, next up, we're going to hop into a quick demo. Let me just go ahead and switch the presentation here. Okay, so hopping into threat hunting here. As you can see here, we have a bunch of threat hunts that we've already kicked off. We want to go ahead and review the original version of threat hunting we have known as advanced threat hunts, which allows us to scan far and wide. This is usually the type of threat hunt that we would run after a turbo threat hunt, where we've taken our indicator of compromise and we've gone ahead and processed it against any known file types that are most likely to be of the executable variety. So prior to having Turbo Threat Hunt, this is how we would have customers rinse and wash their data to identify where they have files that do have matching indicators of compromise. The way that we would get started is we include some type of IOCs to plug into the threat hunt. We're going to start one here in a second. Plug in the type of IOCs that you want to scan for, give Rubrik a list of systems that you want to include in the threat hunt, and then Rubrik does all the work. We go into the backups, we read the backups, we process them against the file hashes or the YAR rules that you have included, and we go through the list, marching through every single backup until we get to the very last one to complete the job, giving you the line in the sand as far as where have points in time been identified to contain your matching malicious file. So here we can see the line in the sand for this particular object is between December 7th at 1:32 p.m. and December 7th at 9:31 a.m. This is where we can see the dwell time being established from the attacker from 1:32 p.m. onward. So what we want to do for this particular system and all the other systems that we identified here is we want to ensure that none of the compromised points in time are restored or are selected, maybe by accident, during mass recovery. The way that we accomplish that is we provide the user a quarantine option. Quarantining allows us to take the files that we identified in each one of the three servers on the bottom and go ahead and tag them, basically append to the snapshots themselves, the 420 snapshots that we've identified. Go ahead and save to that snapshot's additional metadata. We are now saving that these points in time have malware, how many of them, and the dwell time. How many snapshots are we going to append this information to? So now that we've quarantined the files inside of Rubrik, we have blocked them from recovery. To take a better look at that, let's go into our original view here. Now that we've quarantined all the objects, we can see over here on the right-hand side, the first three need to be restored to December 7th. The bottom four, they can be restored to an earlier date. We had indicators of compromise. We scanned multiple objects. Three of them came back with matches. We've gone ahead and earmarked the points in time that we do not want to restore for those systems. And when we proceed here next with cyber recovery, it will automatically take us to December 7th for the three systems on top, and December 10th or December 9th, depending on which one's closest, for the bottom four. So we do start cyber recovery. We pick the type of recovery that we want to choose, live mount in this case. And then we come up here and we select the date and time we're working with. So we'll pick 12 a.m. And then we want to select snapshots by way of this logic. We want to choose snapshots that have not been quarantined, meaning they have no identified pieces of malware on the points in time. We also want to choose non-anomalous snapshots, meaning snapshots that have not been encrypted. And what we see down here is Rubrik taking advantage of all the metadata that we've generated, which snapshots are encrypted, which snapshots have threats by way of continuous threat monitoring detection, and which snapshots have threats by way of threat hunting and the quarantine feature. So this is the outcome of all threat hunts, which after we've saved the points in time that have malicious points in time or malicious files on them, we want to ensure that our recovery system honors all of that hard work. The problem, or the only problem with this entire workflow, is that our threat hunting tool, our original version, does work on an order of magnitude of minutes and hours. In fact, This one that we kicked off prior to the demonstration is still running. Now, as we saw, we can interoperate with it. It's actually already found all the answers that we need, but the original version of threat hunting does take into consideration usual and unusual file suspects. Therefore, it has a longer, harder job to do. So this is the reason why we created turbo threat hunting, so we can zero in on the types of files that are most likely to be malicious in our initial passes, our initial phases of incident response, and then we can use the advanced power of threat hunting to boil the ocean, include unusual suspect file types as well. So let's jump into threat hunts, start a new one, and this time we're going to work with a turbo threat hunt. So we hit next to continue. By default, a turbo threat hunt is going to include all eligible clusters, all clusters that we have across our fleet. We can select the second drop down to go ahead and select individual ones, or still just select all of them. And here we can see a quick glimpse into how many objects and how many snapshots can be covered here. We include the type of IOC that we want to scan for. In this case, we'll include a file hash. And then we go ahead and we include a name for this. We'll call this first turbo threat hunt. And we'll tell it to automatically include all snapshots for all of the objects that we have selected. So that's going to be our entire RSC environment. And that's it. So all we have to tell the platform for a turbo threat hunt is what IOC that you want to process. And optionally, do you not want to scan everything? But we do encourage customers to go ahead and take advantage of the platform and include everything in the scope of your scan. So we've gone ahead and created our one hunt here. And we can see the tile for it has been created on the left-hand side. So we're going to go ahead and click on this hunt here. We're going to go ahead and focus on the 67 objects that have scanned. Down here, we can see that there are 17,000 snapshots against the 67 objects. An object may be one individual server or a partition or file set. In this case, we've already scanned through 17,000 snapshots just by way of clicking into it in the first few seconds. Just go ahead and give this a refresh. And here we have completed our threat hunt. We found 5 objects that had a match. And here we can see very similar information with respects to the version 1 that we have and the version 2 that we have. We're going to tell you how many snapshots were matched. We're going to give you the pop-up so you can still see that line of demarcation, the line in the sand for where did this system first start showing signs of the file. Here we go. December 6th, the line in the sand is between 9:08 a.m. and 1:08 p.m. We can still drill into the system, see our corresponding file, and follow the same workflow. Go ahead, quarantine this file, and ensure that this file, in any points in time that it happens to exist on across the entire Rubrik Security Cloud platform, have been quarantined. All right, so that's our overall workflow. As you can see, the main improvement that we've made here is simply speed. The overall workflow is still very much the same. We need to take the indicators of compromise that have caused our security incident. We need to search for them across our entire platform. We want to block them from recovery. Threat hunting does the searching for us. Quarantining does the blocking for us. What turbo threat hunting does for us, it gives us a rapid tool that we can use to search all of the most likely character or the files that have the characteristics that are most likely to be in scope for potential malicious binary execution. Let's scan those first. Everything else we can include in a threat hunt with our advanced version that still allows us to cover all different types of file or all file types and multiple IOCs. Thank you so much.
Oh man, Adam, thank you. I'm kind of was logging that away in my head. I think where you wrapped up was a great way to sort of pull in what is the value add of each of these elements, and thinking about what is the difference between threat hunting and then quarantining, and why you might want to be thinking more in that turbo side, and then, you know, what you can do, get through the stuff that you really need to urgently and quickly, and then and then what are the next steps there. That's a really interesting way to kind of think about the layers to that. And I think, as we said at the top, really helping us redefine how we think about cyber resiliency, and speed becoming more and more a part of that. Speaking of speed, I know that this webinar is a little bit short and sweet today. We're cramming in a lot. We wanted to get through a demo and just kind of get you that intro, and then hopefully continue that conversation with you as you dig in a bit further with the resources and get to know Rubrik a little bit more by exploring their website. So as I said, there are all of the questions that you have asked. We are going to make sure that you get answers. So if you didn't get a response back on live chat today during the demo, you will get an answer back. So keep those questions coming in. I'm seeing some really, really interesting questions coming from all of you. Clearly, your brains are not still stuck in holiday mode. You guys are all alert, alive, awake, enthusiastic, and inquisitive, and I love it. If you are looking to get a little bit more information right away and you don't want to wait for that email response, please do go visit the handouts tab. Make sure that you have opened those handouts. Spend some time getting to know Rubrik. Spend some time with the Rubrik Zero Labs. This is a great way to learn about the state of data security. You can explore how you can actually measure your own data's risk, and obviously lots more there. There's also a link to actually get into Turbo Threat Hunting and get to know that in an even deeper way than we just did with Adam today. So make sure you've got those links open and spend some time with those once we close out our webinar, which is coming up much faster than I would like. I feel like I want to draw this out. I just got you all back, and now I have to say goodbye again. It's just been an emotional roller coaster already, but I'm so happy to be back with all of you. And we've got lots more coming in 2025, lots more information coming your way, and lots of exciting conversations to be had. So I'm glad we got to kick things off today. Let's do our very first $250 Amazon gift card giveaway. And this is again going to someone who is here live and present at the webinar. And that special lucky someone is Crystal Woodard Smith. Crystal Woodard Smith from Mississippi. Congratulations to you, Crystal. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up our webinar. Again, that was Crystal Woodard Smith from Mississippi. Congrats, Crystal. All right, well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I'm signing off on my very first webinar of 2025. I want to once again thank Rubrik for making this exciting webinar possible, especially to our speaker, Adam, for jumping in and giving us such a great demo. Always exciting to get to see these things in action, really in real time. I think that's a really great way to get to know any solution, and especially when we're looking at these quick responses, right? Well, and of course, as always, and kicking off our year here together, I'm going to send out my biggest high five, my biggest, shiniest, sparkliest 2025 star going to all of you here with us today, because you make this webinar possible. You make all our webinars possible. And these conversations are just a really good example of what we can learn from one another, how we can, we were just talking about speed, right? And the tools and the solutions and the technology that helps us maintain that speed, but all of those are only as good as the people that are having conversations about them, right? It's all of you coming and learning and implementing those tools in your own organizations. So you are a huge part of all of the innovations that happen within our industry, within our world, within this tech space. And so I hope that you will continue to join in, continue to bring that curiosity, ask those questions as we go through our year together. I feel like we definitely started things out with a bang. Seth, I see you. Thanks on back. Seth says thanks. Thanks on back to you, Seth. You're very appreciated here, and I love the positivity coming from all of you. All right, well, I wish I didn't have to wrap things up, but Brian's gonna go have some soup and a sandwich. That sounds like a great call, Brian. See, now I gotta end the webinar so that Brian can go have a soup and sandwich, guys. So you all heard it here. It's Brian's fault. We're wrapping up. We're gonna go eat our lunches. But thank you all so much for joining. I hope that I get to see you all at a webinar again soon. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.